So in this webinar, we're going to talk about training type, the final T in the FIT principle, so FITT. So this is training type. So training type is going to be affected by the other principles within FIT. We'll talk about that later. But first of all, what is training type? So it's just the type of training we do, and the type of training we do can be combined, can be singular, can be kind of a mixture of anything. So in this picture here, we've got running, yoga, functional stuff in the bottom left corner, and then muscle building, strength workouts. So these are all different training types. There's more stuff than that we can go into each one. So with like cardio, you can go running, cycling, rowing, cross-country skiing. There's so many things we can add into each element, but each one will have an impact on how often we train, how intensely we train, and how long we train for. So it's important to know what type of training has impacts in other areas too. So I've written it down here. So we've got cardio, resistance, and flexibility training. So 3 different types of training. And if we break it down again, I've written a little list here. So cardio, we've got aerobic and anaerobic, and then we can break that down further into like HIIT workouts and LISS workouts. So HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. LISS stands for low intensity steady state training. Resistance training, we have hypertrophy, strength, or endurance. So hypertrophy means your muscles are going to get bigger. So hypertrophy, you're growing muscles. Strength means your muscles are getting stronger. And endurance is that you can train or perform for longer. And then with flexibility, we've got yoga and Pilates, and that increases your flexibility around your muscles, mobility around the joints, and stability in those joints and muscles. So there's different types of training, and we can break that down even further. There's a lot more there. I've just given you kind of a brief overview. Next one is, so how does it link to the other FIT principles? So training type. So the type of training you do is going to impact the frequency. Things such as, say, yoga can be used as more of a relaxing form of activity and exercise. You could do that more frequently because there's less physical impact on your body if it's a low intensity session. You can get some yoga sessions that are very hard, very draining, and therefore your frequency will drop. Intensity. So say if you're running a marathon compared to sprinting, the training type there is going to be impacted by that intensity. So sprinting is shorter, higher intensity workouts. Marathon running is longer, low intensity. And that's going to affect kind of the other ones as well. So that's a part of intensity within that training type. Same as strength workouts compared to muscle building workouts compared to muscular endurance workouts. It's all going to impact how intense you work. And that's going to be impacted and determined by the type of training that you're doing. Time, again, the easiest one to relate back to is the running. When you're running a marathon, you have to run 2, 3, 4 hour runs regularly, at least once a week, to get you ready for a marathon. You're not going to be sprinting for 3-4 hours in a training session. You do short, sharp bursts, longer rests, higher intensity, so your time is going to be reduced. Weight training in the gym. If you're doing endurance training, higher reps, you would be probably training for a shorter amount of time because your rest would be short, but your reps would be like higher, but the rest in between will be very, very short. And that will go a lot quicker than if you're doing strength training, because when you do strength training, your rest periods are longer because your weights are heavier. So as the intensity in your weight training increases, the rest also increases, which means the time in the gym may be longer. So that the type of training you're doing, even in the resistance session, endurance compared to strength, the time in the session is going to be very different. And so yeah, big impact on the FIT principle overall. Your training type is going to be determined by your goal. If your goal is to run a marathon, you're not going to be spending much time trying to get the strongest bench press in the world because it just doesn't link to your goal. So if your goal is to be a better runner, enjoy running, be faster, You're not going to spend too much time training to get bigger muscles, especially in your upper body, because that's going to weigh you down for the run, and vice versa. If your goal is to get as big and as strong as possible, you're not going to spend your training time running, because it's not going to benefit your big goal. Your training age is also linked to what training type you're going to do. So if you say, your training age is how long you've been training for. So say if you've been going to the gym for 3 years, you're still generally quite new. You're getting into that intermediate, but also your actual age is going to impact it as well. So we won't be getting 10-year-olds doing max lifts and lifting heavy weights to get massive muscles at that age. With them, it will just be more fun stuff. So more like training within games and learning how the body moves and how the body reacts to things. As you get older, so the guy in the pic with the grey beard, it says 60. We would rarely put him in a sprinting or high intensity impacting training type. So like plyometrics, where you're doing a lot of jumping, a lot of bouncing. You would not give that to an older person, as their joints aren't ready for that. They can do some, but it has to be done in the right way. But you wouldn't generally give that to an older person because the impact on the joint is not good at that age. So your training age and your actual age will impact what type of training you should do, can do, or maybe should avoid. So the risk / enjoyment versus the reward as well. So if you love, so you just picture, for example, Zumba. The reward from Zumba is not going to get you a great bum. It's not going to get you ripped abs. It's not going to get you kind of the shape that you might see on Instagram or a magazine. It's not going to get you maybe that dream body that you want. But if you love doing it and it benefits your general activity, bit of exercise, that social engagement that we talked about in the group training and gym classes, the reward is there, or the enjoyment is there, even if the reward isn't. And that can work vice versa. So you may not like doing heavy squats, but if the reward is so high that it's worth suffering, for lack of a better word, suffering 4 sets of squats to get that reward, we have to weigh that up. Similar to your job, I'm sure there's parts of your job that you don't enjoy doing, but the reward of being paid for that job is worth that discomfort and that suffering to do so. So again, training type comes into how much of a reward you get from it versus how much you enjoy it, or risk of injury almost. And recovery. So your training type is going to be linked to how fast you can recover. Because if you can't recover from the type of training that you're doing, then there's no point doing it. Because you need to be able to recover to train again to get better. If it's taking you too long to recover, this might come back into like training age and your goal. It may be better to try a different type of training to suit you so that you can recover in time for another session, because it's the consistency and the frequency that will embed those skills and that strength in your body. And that's it for this one. So hopefully you can see, after looking at the FIT principle, how they all link in together, a bit of like entwined. If you change one thing, it will change the other ones as well. Almost like a Sudoku. When you adjust one square, it changes other things around it. With the FIT principle, if you change the frequency of how often you train, you have to also adjust the intensity, the time, and the type of training you do as well. And that impacts everything. So if you change the time, you might have to change the type or the frequency, and so on. So it's just nice for you to know that if you ever have to tweak your workouts, adjust your workouts, change a routine for a new job, or if you have a baby, or if you go back from maternity leave to work and you have to change your routine, then understanding how these things all interact can be very helpful, and it's very important to know so that you can keep working towards your goals, keep doing things the right way, the best way for you, as it fits in with everything else. Hopefully that's okay. Hopefully I've helped you understand it and how certain things can link in together. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them.